Hello, everybody. Welcome to our second ever Favourite 11. Today, we're honoured to have Jim Connor. Jim, you may well know from doing cartoons of Grimsby's achievements and maybe the more fallow periods as well throughout the decades. And we'll have a quick chat with him in a second. Jack as well is here and joined us again. Jack, thank you very much for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me back. That's good. I must have. Is this a permanent transfer after my loan debut last week? Is that what it is?
Well, I heard Colchester had let you go, so with the other four, so we just brought you on.
Yeah, in the current climate, that's understandable.
You can't. You got to take what you can get given at the time, isn't it? At the moment.
Absolutely.
Great, Jim. Thank you very much for joining us. To not be too blunt about it, would you like to just talk a little bit about yourself and what you've done with the club and sort of your time at Grimsby as well?
Yeah, sure. I like to think of myself as Grimsby Town's war artist, because going through some of the adversity, good times as well, but there've been a lot of bad times. Over the years, I've taken the mickey out of players, management, and fans. I was a cartoonist with the fanzine, Sing When We're Fishing, from the early 1990s to about 2005. Fanzine was started in the late 1980s by a group of fans, and I used to just send contributions in. But it wasn't until about the early 90s that I got together with a guy called Steve Plowes, who took over as the editor of the fanzine, and we used to be a sort of a joint editorial team, but he just left me to do anything I wanted as far as cartoons. And that worked right up to about 2005 when the fanzine finally sort of spluttered out of existence, because I think probably fanzines had had the day by then, because you had the internet and whatever, and things were more immediate. And from there, I got asked if I would like to do some cartoons for the programme. And I did. I've done them up until the present day with Jack, who's the editor now, and I'm still involved with that. I still do cartoons. I've done a lot of caricatures over the years. Some of the most famous ones, Futchenstein, Gallenmore. And they're sort of stuck in people's minds, so I like to think that they were probably the most successful. Other people, I used to pick on people that were fans of the club as well, and some of them I built up as cartoon cult figures, people like Nobby Atkins, who was a steward there. I've always enjoyed, particularly characters, especially with footballers, and that's why sort of 11 I picked tonight are mainly characters, not necessarily probably the best players, but my favourites probably. But still a good team.
So very much sort of Grimsby's version of Eric Kennington or Bill Tidy, sort of mixed in with one another. What cartoon were you sort of have you been most proud of throughout the years? I think if I remember right, the one that I do really remember is the one on top of the open top bus.
Was that the celebration? Was it the Wembley trip?
Yes, that was the one. That's the one that always sticks in my mind when I think of you. Which ones have you really enjoyed documenting throughout the years?
Well, I do like Futchenstein because, as I'll talk later, but him and, I said there was Oyster Boy, it was John Oster. He was found in a clam behind the Blundell Park. He'd been washed up. And he'd sort of been washed up amongst this radioactive sort of silt. And he ended up being a real quality player, but he was only about 6 inches tall.
I mean, radioactive silt sounds like most of the midfields we had in the late 2000s and zeros.
So you can see I was quite imaginative. I quite like the idea of building up on characters. My favourite cartoon strip was Magnificent Seven.
Oh, really?
About seven. They were in the fanzine. There was 7 characters that the club was folding and going to go out of existence. And already the builders were in, but the Magnificent Seven came to the rescue. And this strip went on for ages, but it figured a lot of my favourite characters and players within it. So plenty of scope there.
I can imagine. Can you remember your first game as a Town fan? Do you know who it was against?
Yeah, I can. I came into football quite late, actually. I didn't really support football, or I didn't watch football until I was into my late teens, to be honest. And I used to watch it on TV, watch a bit of Match of the Day, and I can remember watching the FA Cup about 1970. I think it was Chelsea and Leeds. And round about, it was January 72, Laurie McMenemy was here and there was something special happening. And my dad turned around to me and says, I think you ought to come along and have a look at this. Something special going on down at Blundell Park. Never been. And they were playing Lincoln that day. And it was a 2-2 draw. And I can remember Dave Worthington scoring the equaliser. But the thing that I remember most is walking into the ground for the first time. And it was the colour. It still sticks in my mind how green it was. Because everywhere else around the football ground was quite drab. And I'd watched football in black and white on telly. So there we go, walk into it. Crescendo and noise. Because there was probably about 15,000 there that day. Because we were already getting big crowds. Very noisy. Quite colourful. You could smell wintergreen. So everything about it just sticks in my mind. And it was a 2-2 draw.
Which end of the stadium did you walk into?
Oh, well, then it was the what is now the away end and the open corner. I think I went in. But then I progressed to the between the main stand and the away end, that corner. That's given to the away fans now. But that was a stand and I progressed to the main stand and then to the pontoon.
You've been all over then, Jim.
Yeah, I've moved around. I've been upstairs as well and been in the boxes.
Yeah.
As well at some time. Didn't quite like it in there as much as being out in the open with the where you could actually smell the liniment.
Yeah, it's a bit more real, isn't it?
Yeah.
I've got a question for you, Jim. I wanted to put to
you.
Because you mentioned before about about contributing to Sing When You're Fishing. What was it like to be a part of that magazine? Because obviously fans of a certain age who remember buying one on the way into Blundell Park, it was probably a big part of their match day experience. And what was it like to contribute to that?
It was good. I enjoyed it, especially working with Steve Plowes. We used to have sort of editorials at 11 o'clock at night over the phone. He'd be in Lytham St Anne's, and he'd be coming up with some idea. And sometimes he'd want a drawing for it, or he'd want a cover. He was more demanding than you, Ajay. He was.
Surely not.
He'd want things. He said, I need this one for next week, and it'd be some idea that they'd have. But the thing is, with Steve, the whole thing of the day was that he enjoyed the selling of the fanzine. And he used to say, sometimes, he says, it's a great day, but sometimes spoiled by 90 minutes or something. that was bad. He loved it. He loved everything about it, he said. And he said he loved the banter with people, because people come up and absolutely love it. And he did get a lot of people contribute to it. And people that said, Steve gave me a chance to write articles for the first time. And quite a few of these people have gone on to perhaps be involved with writing, and poets and whatever. Pete Green, a poet that is quite well known on the circuit, and he used to contribute to it. And a guy came up to me a while ago and he said, you and Steve gave me my first chance to write articles. And he said, I love writing now. So it was quite good. It was you could feel that people actually enjoyed the fanzine. You get a bit of abuse from certain people that perhaps didn't want to buy one. Sometimes the fanzine got into trouble when it first came out because it was seen as a rival to the programme, but which it wasn't, because we was hoping there was going to get a programme and a fanzine. That's what we were hoping for.
Yeah, well, I mean, just to sort of jump in there, that was definitely my experience of it, Jim, as a wee nipper going to games in the sort of mid-90s, is that you'd get a programme and you'd get a Sing When You're Fishing, no doubt about it. But out of the two, one was the official match day programme, but the unofficial one was probably where all the good stuff was. So yeah, I think you guys managed to hit that sweet spot, to be honest. Certainly had an impression on me growing up.
Oh, please. It's good because I say we had some good contributors over the years, and I still see some of these people. I mean, Rob McElveen, who's written that Champions book, he used to write for the fanzine. And
no. Alex, do you have any memories of Sing When You're Fishing?
I remember my dad used to give me the program to keep me quiet, and he would stash Sing When He's Fishing in his inside of his coat pocket for himself. And it would be one of these things that I'd probably find a week later, probably sat, it's not a nice, pleasant thing, but next to the toilet or something like that I could he's finally given it up and I can have a quick read of it. It always felt a little bit, when you're a kid, it felt almost, it sounds silly, but not naughty, but it felt like you were reading something that the club wouldn't necessarily want you to be reading, because it took the mick, but it was certainly more real. And it was even at the ages of sort of 8 or 9 when I was, because I'm relatively similar to Jack's age, where it was more emotive than what the club program was back then. And we can sort of move past the Mandy Mariners sort of period of the program, but more like the adverts between Imperial cars and stuff. It was more sort of it was the stuff that made you laugh and made you intrigued about it, and those sort of creative stories as well. It was something, and it's always such a shame now you look and with such fondness, and it's only usually the big clubs now that are lucky enough to be able to continue something like that. But I can't even begin this podcast, even though it sounds like it's cobbled together, and it mostly is. But I can't begin to imagine the work that yourself, Jim, and Steve and everybody else put into that. It must really have been a labour of love.
Yeah, I think you're right there, because it did. It took us over 3 matches to probably sell the copies that we had. So it was as if anyone was making a lot of money out of it. It was definitely a labour of love, and all it would do is pay for the next printing. Next load of print. I think the best time we ever had, I think we made 1,000 copies once, was when Brian Laws punched Ivano.
Allegedly.
Allegedly. And we had a cover with Ivano eating a packet of crisps with the salt and battery flavour.
Do we have to call it allegedly when he's Brian Laws has been a talking head talking about it?
Probably not.
I thought that was his surname.
I saw a picture of a golf. What did I see? I saw a picture of a cross from him this week, wasn't it? On one of the On This Day videos. I've just remembered that. Sorry, that's the only real remember.
Yes. He scored against Portsmouth.
Yes. Jim, do you remember a game against Oldham in '97? I think it was Brian Laws' last game as manager.
They lost.
Can you remember that atmosphere of that game? That was the most toxic I think I'd ever heard of a game. And I remember we went 3-0 down, and a gentleman went and sat on the centre spot.
I can't remember him sitting on the centre spot. I can't remember the game.
I can remember that vividly. I can remember somebody running on and sitting. I think that happened a couple of times that season when people decided to run on the pitch and protest, essentially, about what was going on. But I suppose it says a lot when you think about us in Division 4 now, essentially, and we were having protests about us playing the second flight.
I've always wanted to know what that gentleman thought when we lost 5-0 to Braintree. Just I'd like to have had his thoughts on it. But
I think I can remember getting relegated. I think it was that season. I'm not sure now.
We won.
Yeah,
we beat Southend 4-0, I believe, on the last game.
Yeah. But we went down and we came out, and they were all gathered outside the Finders stand, and little mighty Mini Mariner was there with his head in his hands. Just it was such a poignant sort of picture. Little Mini Mariner, who wore the yellow oilskin, the one prior to Mighty Mariner.
Was that the last time that Mini Mariner was seen? Have we just sort of stumbled across some incident here, maybe?
I believe it was. I don't know what happened to the larger Mariner. There was Mariner and Mini Mariner.
Well, the person that used to be that Mighty Mariner that year lived across the road from me. A guy called Michael Harwood. He doesn't support Town. He hasn't been to a Town game for years. But the reason I remember that Oldham game was because that was his first time ever being Mighty Mariner, and I was given his season ticket to go and watch from the lower Findus.
What a debut for him!
Yeah, what a debut!
Yeah,
what an effect he had on the team.
Well, he was scary. The one in the oilskin, I've got to admit. He probably had been in the radioactive silt as well.
So you very kindly put together a sort of a favourite 11 and sort of the players that you love the most. Maybe not necessarily the best either. I know, though some of these would certainly be classed up there. And we'll start in the sticks as every sensible place would do. And you've gone for a very popular name and one that probably missed myself and Jack. So we'd love to hear more about Nigel Batch.
Right, yeah. Well, he wasn't the tallest goalkeeper. And the thing about him, he could kick a goal kick with either foot, change during a match. So he could vary. So unlike we sometimes see now, goalies, if someone stands on them, so they'll kick it and it'll go out. He could kick with either foot. He was a brilliant shot stopper. But the best of it all, he was a real character. And he joked with the crowd. A bit like a Bruce Grobbelaar type, but before Bruce Grobbelaar was on the scene, he was doing that. He was messing about, sort of having a joke. But then, if something went wrong, he would really have a go at his defence. Particularly, he'd be having a go at Dean Crombie, who was the centre half. He didn't look like a keeper when you... He looked... Well, he probably looked like a Sunday League goalie. He didn't... Nowadays, goalies look the part, don't they? They almost look like robots, if you like, because they've got all the protective padding and all that. Nigel had a full beard, and he didn't see many bearded goalkeepers, so he was a bit unusual. So he's a bit of a character, and that's probably one of the reasons I liked him in a way, because he sort of stood out. He'd mop his brow when the shot would go close to the goal and going in. And he made his debut in a match. I particularly remember because I took my brother to it because he'd be about 8, and I took him to this match, and it was against Port Vale, and it was during the 76-77 season, and lost 4-2, and he didn't have a very good game, to be honest. And that season we went down. But he redeemed himself because later on he put in some outstanding performances. I'm just trying to find out some stats I'd written down.
Well, I know we talked about the Lincolnshire trifecta last week, Jack. He's one of the players that did. So he played for all 3 Lincolnshire clubs, excluding Gainsborough and Boston. But only one for Scunny, but another one of our players that sort of hailed from sort of Yorkshire and was 348 games in total, I believe.
Yeah, he played a lot of games with the club, didn't he? And I think I might be right in saying this, Jim, that I think he played over 200 consecutive games at one point as well.
That's right, yeah.
Yeah, around the time when we won back-to-back promotions in the late 70s and the early 80s. So you can see if you were a Town fan at that time, what a big impression you'd have on them, because he was, like Jim said, a character and also a regular as well.
Yeah, he won Player of the Year, I think, a couple of years on the trot as well, 81 and 82. I'd say he's probably one of the club's best ever goalkeepers. You know, I think was it 348 league appearances?
Like yeah, apparently so.
He's, but that he was part of a special side really, because what he did, he was quite young, and then at that period when they'd been relegated, a lot of these young kids came in, the Drinkles, the Moores, Tony Ford. and Joe Waters was there as well at that time. So a lot of players were in that team, and they went down, but they came up through the divisions then a few years later. So it was a mixture of young lads and experienced pros.
Because I've got him here that. Sorry, apologies,
He was a big part of that promotion back-to-backs.
He says here that he started in 1976. So did he make his debut when he was sort of a teenager? Then when he was like 19 years old?
I believe he was, yeah. Because I'm not sure of his age. I haven't got any facts on that, but he wasn't that old. But the side was after that, after that season, the one that went down, the following season, they came up with all these young lads.
How did you feel about that then when they came up with young lads? I mean, it must be quite nice, I guess. But was it daunting or?
It was great to see so many young lads getting a chance from the local area, along with a few seasoned pros. The team sort of gelled together, and I say we had that promotion 78, 79, and then we had another promotion the following year, 79 and 80, and that to me is my favourite year for watching town.
And do you think that year was a sort of a special year or a special sort of, I don't know, generation of youngsters from Grimsby and the local area that came through, or do you think it's something that they were just given the chance to shine?
Well, I do think it was a special year, but they'd taken the opportunity, and a lot of them knew each other from school football. Quite a few of them were from what was Wintringham School, and I think Kevin Drinkle was from Whitgift School. So they were all known to each other locally, and they all had the same sort of desire to get on and become footballers, make a profession of it.
I think it's quite rare that you get a group of players all come through at the same time, don't you? It's quite common that you get one or two over a 2 or 3 year period that sort of filter into a squad. But like Jim said, you had a few coming of age and coming through the ranks at the same time. I suppose in a way, it's Grimsby's version of the class of '92. I suppose that Man United did that became the team that Fergie had for so long. This group all came through at the same time or came of age and took us from the 4th division to the 2nd division, Jim, didn't they?
Yeah, it's a good sort of comparison, really.
And I guess moving on to left back, let's go left back instead of the normal number 2 role. Tony Gallenmore is I believe what you called him. What do you have? What are your thoughts on Gally?
Gally, I love Gally. He's another character. I just think he was so fit. He was solid. He was the first choice after I think it was Gary Croft had left. He was the person that they spent some of the money on. I think he cost 200 grand.
Yeah, he did.
I'm not sure. Was it 200 grand? Yeah.
Yeah. To the penny. Yeah.
Yeah. Was it Carlisle? I think he might have been.
Yeah, we signed him from Carlisle. Yeah.
Yeah, but he was such a solid player, and he played some of his best football in the double season, 97 and 98. I think he was part of one of the strongest defensive lineups in the 2nd division. Occasionally he was the captain. He was another interesting character because it was no secret he liked to drink.
Allegedly.
Allegedly. He became the subject of my caricatures. And as I said before, it was easy to find a cartoon subject and a name for him. He became Gallenmore.
Jim, do you know if Gally was ever aware of Tony Gallenmore in the fanzine?
Yeah, he was, because I worked with a friend of his who told me a lot of his stories, and Tony said, "How does this person know so much about me?" He used to say it to this guy, and he said, "I don't know, no idea." And he used to pass a bit of information, so that's how the Tony Gallimore strip came about. I don't think he took offence. I think he quite liked it in a way.
Yeah, I suppose in a way it's if you're a footballer and you've got fans that's taking you to heart a little bit and doing something and having a laugh with you, then you're going to find it quite endearing, aren't you? I suppose. Really,
Yeah, he was quite. He's a wholehearted player. He just, he gave 100%. And Alan Buckley said he was probably the fittest player at the club when he was there.
Yeah, he was. He was one of those players that when Buckley came in, I remember at the time wondering whether he was going to feature as much under him, because I think that season when we went down, I think he struggled against some of the better wingers in what's now the Championship. But like Jim said, he was basically the left back when we got promoted in 97, 98, and he was a good left back as well. And
yeah.
And anyone that's been on Twitter recently that's seen some of the stuff that on this day has been posted, he knew how to take a free kick as well, so his technique was fantastic. And one of my earliest memories of Gally was the goal he scored away at Stoke City in '96 in a 2-1 away win. I remember standing behind the goal at Victoria Park when he hit one in past the keeper, and I can still remember the sound of the net bulging. That sort of had an impression on me when I was 10 years old. So good choice at left back.
He was absolutely brilliant for us. I think we were just so lucky, especially in that time, especially when, Jack, when you picked your team last week, you can tell you're sort of the same era that I was. We were so lucky at the time to have such fit wing-backs. And that's a really good way of describing him as well, Jim, where if you have Maka on the right, who was, I think, equally as fit at times as well and was rapid in his day, and Gallimore on the same wing, those two could just run up and down those channels every day, all day of the week. And we were lucky to have him, and it's nice to still see him hanging around the club every now and then. I saw him he came to a youth game a couple of last season, or was it this? No, it was this season when we played in the FA Youth Cup. He was there watching some of the youngsters.
Yeah, I saw him at Scunthorpe actually. The last game we played this season, he was there in the watching the game, and he was waving to the fans
in the bar.
I know he recently had an accident where he lost his thumb, I believe, but he was anyway, he was waving with his good hand, whatever. He was waving to everybody because everyone was glad. Everyone was glad to see him, because he is a character, and people do like him.
He's recognisable as well. You'd never miss him. But I would love to have known the antics that he got up to during the Ibiza Cup.
Well, you'll have to be fair to the cartoons.
Yeah, we're all going to go back to the editions of Sing When You're Fishing now and work out what he's been up to.
So moving centrally, I can only imagine there is only some people may have already guessed, but you've got Paul Futcher at centre back. What would you like to say about Futch?
Well, he was just a true gentleman. He made over about 700 Football League appearances, starting at his hometown club. And I can remember him as him and his brother, he had a twin, they making the debuts for sort of Chester City. And he went on to Luton, and then he ended up in the First Division with Man City. And to think that he came to town at the age of about 35, apparently past his best. But what we saw was probably one of the greatest footballers to grace Blundell Park. And he actually achieved his first promotion of his career.
Well, it was before then. Up until then, it was his brother that had been more successful, really. Ron had been the leading scorer in what was then Nazle over in North America for a time.
What's great about him, though, is although appearing slow, he had a quick football brain, and his ability would see him come away with the ball. he was never out football. I think he made about 132 appearances for the Mariners between about 1991 and 1994. And his range of passing for a centre half was amazing. He was another one of my favourites to be caricatured because it was a bit of a rebirth for him. So I sort of had him being regenerating, and because he'd been in the wilderness at Halifax, and had him being rebuilt and reborn as Futchenstein. And that was another character that sort of people took to. But he was a bit like that. It was almost as if he'd been reborn. And he had a great couple of seasons.
I'm trying to think back, Jim, to my first season watching Town, because I think I caught the very end of his Town career, but I was very young. So I've got probably a vague memory of what I perceived to be an old bloke playing for Grimsby at the back that I probably couldn't really understand. So I think I missed out on being able to see his class. But yeah, he's definitely somebody that cropped up in conversations with fans that had a chance to see him during that spell. And as you alluded to before, I think when he was at Luton and Man City, he was on the fringes of the England squad at one point. So that's sort of how well thought of he was as a young defender. And it's amazing, really, that we managed to pick him up from, I think it was Halifax Reserves, wasn't it? When he was seeing out the rest of his career, probably thinking about what he's going to be moving into coaching or whatnot, and gets a phone call from Alan Buckley and ends up coming and playing a part in us getting into the second tier and playing for a couple of seasons on as well. So yeah, what an amazing signing that was from Buckley.
And he was a good guy for experience to pass on to any other centre half that was alongside him.
Yeah, that was something I was going to mention about Futcher, because I think he really wanted the Town job at one point. I think that he laid his cards on the table to a certain extent, that he wanted to become Grimsby's manager, and he didn't get it. Whether it was the Brian Laws time or not, I'm not too sure. But it's sad, really, that never really worked out, because he could have been a good fit for Town in many ways as a manager.
You're right.
It might be the season before, but was his last game for Town the last game with the pontoon stand-in as well? Or was that the season before?
That's a very good question. No, it's definitely that season. It was 94-95. It was 1995 the last time we played with the pontoon stand-in. But I seem to think that he stopped playing midway through that season. I don't think he featured too much under Brian Laws. Correct me if I'm wrong, Jim. He might have just sort of been in and around in the background. But having said that, he could have played in that game. It might have been his last game to play, but he didn't feature much that year. It was more the year before that he was a regular.
Yeah,
I know he certainly played against Sunderland in the 3-1 win that year, but I'm not sure. I was just having a look at on this day because he's got the programme from that game as well. But he doesn't have the back page, annoyingly. But I might just give him a quick tweet to sending me a photo of it. So, moving on, partnering him at the back, we've got the ever defensible Kevin Moore. What do you want to talk about, Kevin?
Well, Kevin was a local lad. He come from a footballing family. I think his dad had played for Town. Obviously, Dave, his brother, and Andy. He played. I don't think he played with all three of them played on the pitch at the same time. I know that different combinations. Dave and Andy had played with him, but Kev was excellent centre half, and he was he come into the team virtually finishing school. I think he'd finished his A-levels, and he joined the Mariners that week after he'd finished his A-levels, and he was in the first team within weeks. I can remember him. One of his early games was playing against Crystal Palace, who had a young Peter Taylor playing from then, and he was already been touted for the England position, playing, and a great player. And Kevin marked him virtually out the game. I think he scored, Peter, because I know we lost 1-0, but I'm sure it's Peter Taylor who scored. But Kevin had done such an excellent job, and you could see that this was going to be somebody for the future here. He always came onto the pitch doing a trademark header into the, leaping and doing a header, and you knew he was going to be one of the greatest. Well, he was going to be captain. He became captain of the team, and he was going to be involved in the promotions, the two promotions, the back-to-back promotions that I mentioned earlier on. He used to he could get himself up in a scoring position. He used to get himself into the box, and he'd get on the end of some of the great crosses that would come over from Mike Brolly in particular, and he contributed a lot of headed goals during those 2 seasons. Probably the most memorable match with him is we were playing. We'd beaten Everton in the League Cup, and we were facing Wolves in the quarter-final, and the game was heading for a goalless draw. When in the dying minutes, Kevin managed to crash a ball up against the underside of the bar. And it crashed down and went out, and Wolves got away with that one, because then we ended up playing 2 replays. We played one which we drew at Wolves, and then we lost another replay. I think I don't know if it was at Derby or somewhere like that, but we lost 2-0, I think. And they went on to win the League Cup that year. So we was that close to getting to the semi-final. And that was played, both those games were played in crowds of 23,000 fans. Absolutely packed, like sardines. It was just an incredible night.
I think it's hard to imagine Butler Park with 22,000 for people mine and Alex's age. Don't know what you think, Alex, about that.
I can't even remember. I think I've been to one game that was over 10,000, and I just remember having to park. I think I parked in Top Town, or my dad parked in Top Town. He said, "I'm not even going to bother. I'm not even going to try getting up there. It won't even be parking near Ramsden's. We'll be well away." And I just can't even begin to imagine it. I mean, my dad is the one that sort of talks about those sort of times of every house all the way up leading into the sort of the Barrett stand and stuff was rammed with bikes. But it's something that I'm so envious that you got to see that. And it's more than anything, more than Town being in the Premier League or anything, to see Blunder Park packed or the club being followed by that many would be my pinnacle, I think.
Yeah, Jim, can you remember seeing upwards of 20,000 at Blunder Park in any other games?
I'm trying to think. That season, I think this is the magical season I'm talking about, the 79-80, where it was at the end of the season to play Sheffield United, and I think that was 19,000. So that was about as close, I think. I can't think of...
Was the Arsenal game?
No, that was a bit later, so there'd be more restrictions, and I think that was only about, was it 14,000, something like that. I know they did have, when they look back into the 1950s, there was the biggest game there was about 31,000. But I don't, if 22 was a bit of a struggle, I don't know how 31 would have gotten there.
Yeah, and I know there was some big attendances, because their record attendances was against Wolves, wasn't it, in a cup game?
Yeah,
was it
33, I believe.
Yeah. And I think one of the biggest attendances we got was against Southport in the in Division 3 North, when we was going to win the league there as well. Like you say, it was like nearly 30,000. It's just
that's the one. Yeah.
There's mad numbers out there to even comprehend now, because if you think now when you go to a Town game and there's maybe 7,000 or 8,000 there, you look around and think, it's busy today. So the idea of sort of having 3, 4, 5 times as many people. What were the queues like for the toilet, Jim? They're the big questions.
You're thinking of the revenue for the programme,
Yeah,
aren't you, Jack?
yeah. I don't think anybody went to the toilet, Jack.
Yeah, good point. Good point.
As soon as someone put their hand in the pocket to get a packet of fags or something, you move with them.
It reminds me of last season when I don't know if I've ever spoken about this story, but I took my little lad to Blundell Park, and we were in the main stand. And I don't really go in there, but I went with my old man, and we took him to the toilet, and he's only like 4, so I picked him up to pee in the trough. And there's a guy in there who goes, "Mate, don't bother, you might as well just let him pee on the floor." I go, "Oh, don't be miserable, mate." And then I look down, and the trough has basically just got a small pipe that doesn't even go down to the floor. And it just drips into a little trough that's on the ground. Oh, okay, fine, yeah, he was kind of right.
Alex, that's proper football. That's how I remember football, to be honest.
I've been in Surrey far too long, haven't I?
That's posh to Grimsby, mate. It's a posh toilet, that.
Yeah.
Getting
back to Kevin, he won the PFA 3rd and 4th division team. He became part of the PFA's team for each year, for those 2 promotion years. He'd actually made that position. So they did this at the end. I don't know if they still do that every year, do they, Jack? The PFA award.
Yeah, I don't know if it's the PFA award anymore, but they definitely do a League 11, don't they?
Yeah.
I don't know if it's PFA though. But I think the interesting thing about Kev Moore, that from doing a bit of research into it, is that he was sold in 1987, believed to Oldham.
Yeah.
And at that stage, he'd made over 450 appearances for Town. And he still had a lot of his career to go. I think at that stage he was probably in line to end up being Town's record appearance holder before Macca ended up getting it because it was it Keith Joblin? Keith Joblin was the record appearance holder with about 500 appearances or so, wasn't it? So who would have thought that, maybe if we hadn't got relegated that season in '87, then he might have stayed on and it could have been a completely different history, and he could have been our record appearance holder. So I think that says a lot about how many games he played as a youngster.
Yeah, you're right.
And we'll
speak that he went, because I think that was Mike Lyons really who sold him. So
yeah,
and it says a lot about him though as a person, that when he sadly passed away a few years back, that both Southampton and Town did quite a lot to raise money for him and the family.
Yeah,
Southampton being the last sort of 158 games he played for them. He played for Fulham just afterwards, but yeah, it says a lot about the man.
Yeah, he played a lot for Southampton in the First Division, didn't he? When Chris Nicholl was in charge as well. So I think it says a lot about what a good footballer he was.
He was. He was a great footballer, and like I say, it was sad. It's sad that he died so young.
Would you say Jim was probably the best Grimsby defender ever?
Well, he played left back when he first started, and then he moved into the centre half position. And I thought he was majestic. I thought there. I mean, imagine him and Futch together.
Yeah, sounds like a good combination. Is this Futch from 35 or a younger Futch as well? What are we thinking?
Yeah, probably. I don't know, that season when Futch first came, I thought he was great. So I think he still would have done the job with Kev Moore.
Well, speaking of, I guess, leading appearance holders, this might just be a position we maybe just don't talk about after you, Jim, because I think it's going to become a regular. John McDermott, right back. What would you like to say about the great man?
Yeah, what can you say about him? I mean, he's spent 20 years at the club. I mean, that's such an achievement, and the record holder for appearances. I just thought he never seemed ruffled by anything. He always seemed quite cool. I think Paul Groves made him captain. And I read that he'd experienced promotion or relegation 9 times when he was at Town. So he's either promoted or relegated. It seems a lot.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah. His strength was sort of shackling the opposition strikers without actually committing a foul. He was a quality player and a gentleman, really, and another gentleman. He never seemed rushed, and as in my footballing days, I used to play left back. That was a position that I like to think was my own, and I used to watch him, fervently, see how he played the game, and he was brilliant.
Yeah, that's an interesting point, that, Jim, about watching him and sort of learning the fullback trade. But I think Maka, he really became a fullback under Buckley. He was when he first came into the town side, he played a lot higher up the pitch. He was a midfielder essentially. I think they kind of struggled to find a place for him, either playing on the wing or I think sometimes he even played up front a little bit. But yeah, I think his ability to play higher up the pitch and be an attacking player, when he played as fullback, he became. We mentioned it the other week that he was almost like one of the original attacking fullbacks that naturally knew how to link attack with defence. And yeah, he was. Yeah, well, I think we should just retire this position, Alex, really, because we're going to have the same conversation about Maka.
I did have somebody that was who I thought was a good left back, my time of watching him, and that was Dave Booth, who actually became manager.
Oh, yeah, of course.
He was a decent left back as well. But
who did you go for left back, Jack? I remember you didn't go for Gallimore.
It was Crofty. I went for Croft, based on the two different spells. But I did give an honorary mention to Gally, so obviously I agree with Jim.
Well, we'll move into midfield, and we'll start with Mike Brolly. Quite a player that I've never really seen much of, I'll be entirely honest. So I'd love to know more about him, Jim.
Right, well, he probably features a lot on those on this Grimsby Town Day.
That's true.
Especially there's a few of his goals, especially the ones against Everton. But he was a cracking player. He came up with a lot of assists with goals. He was an excellent corner taker. Very speed, could play on either wing. He was very good. I would say quite speedy. He could put over a good cross. But his corners were something else. They're just sort of pinpointed for somebody like Kev Drinkle, Kev Moore, or even Kevin Kilmore to get on the end of. He had a good technique. He was 2-footed, and he worked well with Joe Waters. It was Joe Waters would be demanding the ball off him. He'd be working with, and then he'd be getting it back. But I'd say he's probably remembered for the Everton game. His 2 goals he scored in that game. That sent us through to the quarter-final. That was a magic night. That was another one of those sort of 22,000 crowds. He was a very consistent player. When he got the space out wide, when he got the ball out wide, you knew he wouldn't waste it. I think he's made over 254 league appearances and scored 27 goals. And he was with the town team that went from Division 4 to Division 2. So he was one of the more experienced pros that were with the young lads. I remember in the programme in that period, they used to have the name of the player and there'd be a phrase that was written against it, and his was the Balding Scot with the lethal shot.
I think
his consistent performances in midfield or on either wing were a vital sort of part of the team's success. I think he mesmerised many defenders because he could, like I say, he was 2-footed, so he could, and that's why you could find him also. He'd get in the box as well. He'd cut in, a good player. I think he stayed in the area, became a teacher, and he was still playing football locally. And I think he was playing in there's a teachers league, and I think he was playing in that for only recently.
Yeah, but, Jim's right. I remember Mike Brolly playing for Bridge in the Sunday League, in the Grimsby Sunday League, which Bridge always were in the sort of like top 2 or 3 divisions, really. I'm pretty sure he was playing into his 50s at a decent level as an amateur as well. Am I right in saying, Jimmy, he was just an intelligent footballer?
He was, yeah. I think he'd been around. He'd been at Chelsea, and I don't think he'd been able to break in. He had played a few games for them in the first division. And I think he'd gone to Bristol City, but then he ended up here. And I say it was that excellent period.
Is there a particular goal, Jim, as well, that stands out apart from the Everton? Discounting the Everton game, because that's if there'll be a game on his gravestone, it would be the person that did that to Everton. Apart from that, is there another goal that stands out in your memory?
Well, that season against Barnsley, the free kick from outside the box, it was, it beat the keeper. It was a fantastic kick, and that's there's the footages of that one, because I think that featured in the sort of Your Match or whatever it was they called it in those days on Yorkshire TV.
I got a message back from On This Day who said that Paul Futcher's last game for Town was under Brian Laws in a 3-1 defeat to Oldham on the 27th of December 94, and he never played for Town again. So there you go, just a bit of information.
Right.
Fantastic. Thank you very much On This Day.
Yeah.
Amazing stats there. Live stats.
It's like TMS going to the box to just go to Andy Zoltzman or so. Another man, so a man that doesn't really have much online that I could find. All I can know is that he comes from quite close to where this podcast is centred, only a couple of miles down the road in a little village called Elstead. And that's Mike Hickman.
Yeah. I need to find me little things I've written about him. Let's have a look.
Because he was previously at Brighton before then.
Yeah, was he from? Where was he from? Was it Devon?
No, Surrey, Elstead.
Surrey, all right.
Elstead in Surrey, yeah. Anyone who watched Skyfall, that is where the silly little cottage in the middle of nowhere is filmed. Not that anybody cares.
That one house, that is Elstead.
Yeah, that's literally it. It was built on the army.
There, then.
In Surrey. God, can you imagine how much that house would cost?
Well, Mike, he was part of the 71-72 team, and he was an attacking midfielder. And it was said that he sort of covered every blade of grass as he rampaged through the midfield. He was a big-hearted player. He'd be up and down and getting tackles in, winning balls back, and setting off attacks again. And he used to score quite a few goals as well. He always gave 100%. And I think he endeared himself to the Town fans mainly because of that, because he gave 100%. And he was a bit of a bruiser, liked to get stuck in. But I did like him because he was a bit rough around the edges, but there was, like you say, he gave 100%. He was a regular choice throughout his career as a striker or central midfielder. I'd say he was quite courageous because I think, he'd go in where it hurt. He left Town and went to Blackburn, and I think he won a 3rd division medal with them. So he had a 4th division medal and a 3rd division medal in the end. So I don't know if he went on anywhere else. I think he might have even gone to Australia to play and coach or something.
I know there's been a couple of people on the Fishy that have always talked about the new Mike Hickman when they're talking about particular players. I'm just trying to think who it was in association with now. They were talking about the Shop, I believe, which I don't know if that rings true from what you've been saying, but I wouldn't have necessarily. But maybe Disley, I'd imagine maybe they were talking about. But there's apparently a very famous photo of him scoring his goal against Scunny in the early 70s.
Yeah. I suppose Poughton might have come up sort of close to him in a way, because Poughton used to sort of travel virtually all over the pitch, and he used to.
Yeah.
He scored about 13 goals during that 71-72 season, so he did contribute from midfield. And he was here for around about 6-7 years. So he was here till when the virtually about season 2 before they got relegated. So there was a bit of sort of fallow years in the 70s when they just a team that sort of languished sort of near the bottom half of the table.
Jim, would you say that the fact he was like a hard-working, committed player of the sort of Alan Poughton ilk, and also a goal-scoring midfielder as well, that sort of made him stand out as like a natural choice for you for this team, because he kind of did both?
I think he did, because he did a lot of hard work for people, and perhaps maybe the person that would be playing alongside him will probably get more praise. But you could see that he used to get through a lot of work, covering the pitch and whatever, and just setting things off again. So making that person next to him in midfield, probably made them probably the star, if you like, than him. But I liked him because he was no nonsense.
He's it's amazing. He had a half decent return there for a midfielder. 48 goals in 254 appearances is no slouch. It's certainly somebody that is committed, and I guess in those sort of teams as well, where the midfield is massively competitive, and you don't really get a second on the ball. He must have been a joy to watch.
Yeah, he was. Yeah, he was a good player, and I think it's basically because he was a very, very committed and 100% player. That's why I liked him.
And then going on to his midfield partner, Joseph Waters, or Joe Waters, one that I do remember quite fondly, and I believe I was talked about it quite a lot. So it'll be interesting to know what are your thoughts on Joe and sort of how he was as a player, and another player that played a lot of games for Town. So over a long time.
Well, he was probably one of the most popular players ever. I mean, people still talk fondly about him. He sort of arrived here on loan from Leicester City, and people knew about him because they'd already seen him on Match of the Day, scoring for Leicester City against QPR, I think, in an FA Cup quarter-final. He scored both goals. And somehow we ended up with him on loan. And he was such a quality player. Town fans wanted them to sign him up. But this figure of 10,000 came, and the board said they couldn't afford him unless the fans were able to contribute to the 10,000. And I think they did. I think they raised about $2,000 towards the 10 grand. So the board knew that the fans wanted it and they meant business. But we did actually sign him up in '76. And he was on loan at first, and then we became permanent. But he was special, I would say. I think he was a flair player. He wanted the ball. He scored, I think he scored 65 league goals, and 28 of the goals were from the penalty spot. He was in front of goal in the penalty spot. He was usually, dead eye. He knew he was going to score. I didn't see him miss many. And I don't. Is talking about not missing many penalties. He didn't miss many games either. In 4.5 seasons, I think he wasn't ever present. And it surprised him really when he was in midfield because he was another person that gave 100% and got stuck in. You could say he was the beating out of the team. You know, a real dynamo, winning tackles, distributing great balls out to attacking players.
Speaking of his signing, it was quite controversial at times, wasn't it? If I believe right.
Yeah,
because though it was £10,000 and obviously fans raised 2,000 of it, which seems to be a common theme at town. It was the same year they paid £20,000 for Ron Wig. Is that right?
Yeah, Ron Wig. Yeah. I didn't forgot about him. I did.
Sorry about that.
I didn't consider putting him into the team, but yeah, Ron Wig. Yes. But we cut. The fans paid about 2,000 towards the transfer. But he was such a special player. I mean, just seeing him driving people on, you could see the team just gelled together. Every one of them, from the goalie right up to the strikers, they had the common sort of aim, and he was the beating out of it. I think he played for Era on 2 occasions. He actually scored a goal in a friendly against Turkey. He was quite a character. He used to take the team that I used to play for training. And he was a very sociable, very funny, great sense of humour.
You might well know who wrote this article, but I don't know. But someone said the last time they saw Joe Waters was in Joe Waters' video shop in Fremo.
Yeah.
He was the only person in the shop too small to reach the adult videos on the top shelf.
No, I didn't write that, but I think that might have been was that in the fanzine?
I've just pulled it off from an archive webpage, so I have no idea where it came from.
Yeah, he did have a video shop down Fremo, that's right, yeah. Quite a few of them had sports shops, and Harry Wayman had a sort of sports kit shop, and Joe had a video shop. And I think Malcolm Partridge, who played for town, he had some sort of like gym or something at Millfields.
It'd be nice if you saw like a bit of a renaissance for that sort of thing, and you ended up getting, I don't know, like Charles Vernon maybe being an artisan butcher, or I don't know, who else could it be? It could be.
Well, I saw a picture this week of Matt Haywood. So apologies for bringing him up in this podcast. But he's a postman in an exceptionally picturesque village in the Cotswolds. I believe it's like the one that most people see when they see a picture of the Cotswolds, if I remember right. I'll try and dig out the tweet in a minute, but that's what he's doing. Same as Curtis Woodhouse, who is also a postie.
Is he really? I didn't know that. I knew he was manager of Gainsborough, isn't he? Gainsborough.
It might be Justin Whittle. Apologies.
Right, okay. That makes sense. Yeah, I think Justin Whittle's been a postie for a while.
Yeah, he's just an exceptional player. I mean, he's one of my favourite players. But they were good times. But we've had some exceptional midfielders since, and your Grovesy and John Cockrell. But
Jim, for younger fans, who would you compare somebody like Joe Waters to in the way that he played? Is there somebody you can compare him to?
Somebody setting up. Yeah, it'd be somebody who's creative, really. Yeah, creative midfielder. I know when he first came here, he played alongside Dave Boylan. And so when you think about it, they were both diminutive, weren't they, really? They were as midfielders, and they played together for a while. I'm trying to think of somebody that was a bit like Joe, who...
You're trying to think of someone fleeting now, isn't there? Because you wouldn't say Wayne Burnett because he doesn't sound as powerful and as sort of engine room like as Joe. And then I don't know. God, he sounds like He sounds like the complete package. He sounds like the complete package.
Yeah, he was. I think he ended up going to America and playing there, coaching in soccer league with was it college football and things like that.
He played for the Takamo. So apologies if I'm totally butchering that, but the Tacoma Stars, I believe that's it. He played quite a long. He actually played more games for them than he did for Town in the end, 358 in total, and then retired in '92, and was managing them up until 2015 as well.
But the burning question is, what happened to his video shop?
It's still there.
Still there. Still there.
I'm not sure about that one, Jet. I'll have to check it out.
Whereabouts in Fremo was it?
It was up. I'm trying to think of the pubs there now. You know the Wine Pipe. There's a pub called the Wine Pipe there. I think it's across the road from there, up towards. Somewhere towards Ayton Square.
Oh, okay. So where? Okay. No, I get that. It's in my head now. And then I guess moving on to another person who played the majority of his career at Town is Bobby Cummings. He also moved to the States as well. What do you remember about Bobby?
Oh well, he's a legend, Bobby. I'm just looking for my.
Hey, no problem at all.
Yeah, well, he's a legend amongst legends. He started off as a fullback, and he wasn't that successful actually when he first started. And I believe I can see that game now when he was playing, and I think he got a bit of stick from the crowd. And I can't, looking ahead to the future, I can't imagine anybody giving him any stick in the future because I'm sure he would have been in the stand. He was. So he started off as a fullback.
Yeah,
but he was more successful as a midfielder. I've got him playing on the left side midfield. But he had a ferocious tackle, and there was between 1974 to 87. That I think that says was he there about 13 years or something like that.
Yeah, that sounds about right, Jim.
He contributed to some great goals, running down the wing and cutting in to unleash cracking shots. In about 365 appearances, he scored about 58 goals.
Jim, would you say he's probably one of the most versatile players as well that you've seen play for Town?
Yeah, I would. Yeah, he's a bit of a utility man in a way. He could play up front. He could play on the left wing. I say that I think he could play left back. I just think he, when he was a young lad, he was making his debut. He probably struggled in those first few games.
Yeah, usually when people refer to players as utility players, it's almost like a bit of a. It's not a nice way to describe them really, but I suppose in his for Bobby Cumming anyway, he literally could play anywhere to a certain extent. Because I might be right in saying this, but was he not top goal scorer during the 79-80 season when we won the title as well?
Yeah, I've just noticed that. I read something earlier that he was it? Did he get? I had 14 goals down here for that, but I might have missed some. There might have been some cup goals as well. But,
just from something that I've read in the past, I remember being quite surprised that he was top goal scorer, given the fact that
I thought
he didn't always
Drinks
play up
was
front.
The leading scorer then, but I might be wrong. He could have. But I got him down for 14 goals there, and Kevin Kilmore had 15 that season. And I thought Kevin Pringle had 16. But
I'm probably wrong, but he scored a lot. It's a lot from left back, isn't it?
Mm. But during the 70s, nearly every team had a hard man, and Bobby was certainly combative.
but
I can remember looking in the programme. We used to look in the programme before every game, and to see who the opposition's danger man was. And without fail, Bobby would usually take him out in a hard tackle quite early on, let him know that he was there.
He said
it became a bit of a running joke in a way. I mean, he was more skillful than that, but that he was renowned for being a bit of a hard man. And most people can remember a famous incident with Norman Hunter, who had been a well-known hard player at Leeds, and he ended up at Barnsley. And there was an incident in front of the pontoon when I think Bobby tackled him. He didn't like it. He took exception, and he swung a punch at Bobby. Bobby went down. And I think he's even mentioned this on some interview recently, that Norman was sent off. And Bobby got up and sort of winked to the crowd. So, not exactly sportsmanship, but I think Norman had been guilty of itself over the years with Leeds. So, and also all the Yorkshire teams then were always sent packing, especially in that season. We seemed to get the victory over Sheffield, the Sheffield teams, Rotherham, Huddersfield, I think in the cup, and Barnsley. So we seem to have the better of the Yorkshire teams.
Barnsley, was it a feisty game? Because I've seen in an interview about him having a bit of a feud with a guy called Alan Clark.
Alan Clark was one of the danger men, and he got fouled in that game. Well, when I say foul, Bobby took him. Bobby tackled him.
Bobby nobbled him. That's what you're saying, Jim, isn't it?
He said, I wasn't the biggest of players, therefore I used all the strength I could muster whenever I was making a tackle on an opponent, as most of them were bigger and stronger than me. And yes, it did give me a bit of pleasure, wouldn't it you?
Yeah, well, he did give the fans a lot of pleasure, to be honest, because they liked his fighting spirit, and it sort of typified the team's commitment. So, he was a valuable part of the team then. Town could mix it as well as play a bit. So, wherever the battle, he'll be found, and he could play, like I say, full-back, midfielder, striker. He's another one of the characters that became one of my cartoon subjects. In the Magnificent Seven, he was a killer robot. It was something that the Seven come across, and it was some guy that was planning to take over Blundell Park. He had a killer robot, and it was called Bobby. And that was the Bobby lent himself to that character quite easily.
Is this true that he had a trial under Laurie McMenemy as well? So he must have played under 7 different managers for Town? He was there for a long time.
But he went there in '74, and I'm not sure when McMenemy left. I think he might have left in '73.
Yes.
I think he went to Southampton. So he could have gone there for a trial. I'm not sure how old he would have been then. He might have probably 16, 17.
Yeah, he was as a young lad, wasn't he? He was a young lad when he moved to the area.
Yeah.
I don't know which Scottish club he was at the time, but I think he had offers to play for one of the first division Scottish sides at the time, and he ended up coming to Town, and like you say, 15 years playing in the first team. He did all right, didn't he?
Yeah, well, he's still remembered fondly by most people. And I do know a funny story about it. A friend of mine said he wrote it in the fanzine, this story about coming down Isaacs Hill in his car and reaching the roundabout to go down Grimsby Road. And a car was coming round the corner, and he pulled out in front of him, and he looked at the car, and it was Bobby Cummins driving. And he said, I just kept my head down and kept going as fast as I could. Because imagine that he was going to get tackled by you.
it seems to have been something that's continued as well. So there was his daughter who lives in Kendallville, Indiana, which I think is where he settled. And he said even his her kids, who he was 11 at the time, and Bobby was coaching them. He said it's wonderful to watch. They're very skillful on the ball. Guy is very aggressive, even at his age, just like his dad. So,
but he's a hero. He's a hero to most sort of people, say, of my generation and all that. They look back fondly at him, and we always sort of say, "Where's the Bobby coming now?" But I don't know if he would have survived on the pitch, with the referee. I don't even know how many times he got sent off in his career.
well, this is a good question. How many of these players in the from your favourite 11 do you think would stay on the pitch in a modern game? How many would we have left at 90 minutes?
Well, we'll probably lose most of the midfield.
They'll know they're there, though.
Mike Brolly might survive, yeah, but the others, Hickman, Waters, and Bobby.
No.
I was going to say, Jim, that just from sort of listening to your midfield four, obviously it predates my time of watching Town. I mean, before I was born, let alone watching Town. But there's a theme there, isn't there, of players that can do a bit on the ball, but at the same time are committed and don't mind getting stuck in. I think that kind of epitomises football in the 80s as well. Would you fair comment?
Yeah. I think you would. There was like people with flair and all that, but there's a lot of hard men in those days. I say there was maverick players as well. People that were a bit perhaps didn't stick to the formula, and these were quite classy, but they would often be the target for the your hard men, your bobbies and people like that.
Yeah, sort of a different way to play the game, isn't it? I think if you compare that to, kids nowadays to a certain extent who are brought up watching, your Real Madrids and your Barcelonas that, play really intricate, lovely football, but at the same time, this kind of football it's probably quite wild, isn't it? If like a teenager sat and watched a game from the mid 80s and saw, these incidents like you mentioned about Norman Hunter in front of the pontoon and crunching tackles and sendings off left, right, and centre and people fighting, they'd probably really love it, to be honest. But it just shows you how much the game has evolved.
It has changed, yeah. I mean, that season also, the Town had an FA Cup game against Liverpool, and they lost 5-0. But in the first sort of quarter of an hour, 20 minutes, they looked really good. I mean, they had a few opportunities to score, but that was it. Then Liverpool sort of took over. But that's where now some people have told me I've got it wrong. That is where the "Sing When We're Fishing" chant came from.
I was going to ask you if that was the case.
But I've been told it was started earlier, so that it was said at other away games. But it was used at that match, and they did. It was when they started calling all the Liverpool fans started calling the Liverpool players fish names. So there was Jimmy Place, Kenny Dogfish, and there was chat and every and it was funny. It was funny at the time. We were losing 5-0, so we had to have a laugh at something, didn't we? But,
Absolutely.
But that was a great memory, that going there, because there you were playing probably the top team in Europe then.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was the Liverpool side, wasn't it? That dominated in Europe, and we're almost the shoe-ins to win the first division title. So a 5-0 drubbing at Anfield probably wasn't that bad a return, really, was it? For third division Grimsby.
And there was about 15,000 Town fans went. They didn't expect it at all, and quite a few of the Town fans were in the Kop, which caused a bit of a problem, to be honest.
Sounds a lot of fun.
But we had our revenge in 2001.
We certainly did. We certainly did. The Liverpool fans were not as cheery when we left that year, that day, I'd imagine.
No.
And I guess moving up front as well. I mean, there was probably no doubt. I guess is it corny to call him Mr. Grimsby? But Kevin Drinkle, born and raised.
Yeah, another local lad.
What are your thoughts on the prodigal son?
He was an excellent centre forward, really strong. I think. Well, I had him down as top scorer that season, but I'm not. But Jack said it could have been Bobby. I'm not sure, but he scored 89 league goals altogether. But I remember him getting his 100th goal against Man City, and that was his 100th goal in all competitions. But that was great. We drubbed Man City that day 4-0, and I think he might have scored 2 in that. But he was a great centre forward, noted for his aerial ability and the number of headers he scored. And they were usually from Brolly's corners, free kicks or just crosses. He could leap, get a great height, get a great header in. He was also good with his feet and could finish brilliantly. Now, I think he was another one that was quite young when he made his debut. He might have been 16. I know he scored 2 goals into about his second or third match. I think it was away at Wrexham. But I think we lost the game, but I think he scored 2. But he had neat control and a powerful shot. He actually scored in front of the Match of the Day cameras. And I think it made the goal of the month shortlisting. I'd say he was like tireless with his running. He would be harrying opponents to win it back, and he could hold the ball really well. So he could play with another striker, or he could control the ball and lay it back to maybe Joe on the edge of the area. I think one of his favourite teams must have been Sheffield United because he scored 3 hat-tricks against them in different competitions, and especially on the final day of the season when he scored a hat-trick against them when we won 4-0. That was another brilliant day, a brilliantly sunny, hot day. Joe Waters scored and Drinks got a hat-trick, and it absolutely full. Yeah, with 19,000, and most of them must have gone on the pitch at the end of the game. It was a superb day.
There can't have been many players that have sort of made their debut as an apprentice. It must have been brilliant for you to watch someone come through the ranks. He must have been known quite well around town as well, I imagine.
Yeah, it was. I think his brother might have been on Town's books as well. He was well known because, like I say, all those young lads had come through at the same time. And Tony Ford, another one. I think he was possibly the youngest player to play at 16 years, so many months or something that he actually made his debut. But Kev, he was. I would just say he was the epitome of a centre forward to me. It was old fashioned in a way, and in the end, he ended up being sold for a ridiculous amount.
105.
Yeah, the Tribunal, which was ridiculous when you saw the prices that people were going for. And they're already in that season that I think the figure of $500,000 had been offered for him.
Really?
He ended up going to Norwich. And I think he left there for Rangers, and he left there for about 600 grand. So Town got short change there, I think.
Because they only wanted 185, wasn't it? 185,000 they wanted?
Yeah, I think it
maybe a friendly?
Yeah.
It was a strange time for transfers in the 80s, though, wasn't it? Because I think
Yeah.
the club got shortchanged a bit with Paul Wilkinson when he went to Everton. So I think that the tribunal system was always in favour of the clubs that were making the purchase rather than the ones that were selling. That all changed, though, didn't it? When things started to more money came into the game. But I was talking about it the other week when we were going through my favourite team, and when you compare Paul Wilkinson and Kevin Drinkle's transfers and how much they went for to Gary Croft only went for 2 million, and we're only talking like 10 years on. It just shows you that in today's money, what would a Kevin Drinkle who scored 25 goals in the Championship be worth to a team like Norwich or even a team in the Premier League? You'd be speaking the millions again, wouldn't you?
So, yeah, you would. Yes, certainly.
It makes you wonder if that group of Town players had come through at a time when football finances had moved on and there was a lot more money in the game, how much those players would have accrued for the club. You know, it could have funded the club, you know, at a decent level for 10, 20 years to come if they'd spent it in the right places. So, yeah, 105,000 to Norwich was a snip, given the fact that, you know, he went on to score a lot of goals in the First Division for Norwich and win quite a lot of trophies with Rangers as well in the SPL.
Yeah, you're right. I think there would have been quite a valuable team. Because they came it wasn't that long after they got promotion that they finished fifth in the what is the second division? Well, what is the Championship now? They finished fifth that year. They were that close to getting promoted to the First Division, as it was then. They just missed out, I think. I remember West Ham came here and beat them 5-1. It sort of put paid to that, and I think West Ham possibly went up that year. But it was interesting because they did have a really good side, and you just think what might have been. They could have probably made it, you know, that transition up those divisions, you know, just a matter of a few years.
Do you think that Town side, I think it was probably 1983-84 season or something like that, or certainly around those years when we finished fifth, you know, there's people like Newcastle and Sheffield Wednesday and other big clubs that were finishing around us, and Chelsea and whatnot. Do you think that was probably the best Town team that you've seen, Jim, or do you think you've seen a better one?
Well, personally, yeah, I think they possibly were. I mean, I know that we've had the Wembley teams, we've had the Buckley's back-to-back promotions, but there's something about that. I just think there was something special about that. I just think they were just as a team, they worked really well together. I just think we was close to actually achieving the pinnacle, if you like, getting promoted to the First Division.
And I guess we should wrap it up with your last player, one that I don't know much about, so I'm really interested to learn a bit more about the first shop, Frederick John Lewis, or Jackie.
Now, Jackie is my all-time favourite player. Now, the thing is, you've got to remember, picture yourself in the 70s. Like I said, it's a bit of a drab time. And there's this player with long hair and a Mexican-style moustache. And he rampaged down the wing, or he played up front. The one year he was made a striker. He was there during the McMenemy period, but he wasn't used a lot. But what he did become was a good substitute. I would have probably, if I could have put a sub in, I would have probably made him sub, and bring him on. But he was, I think he got the nickname Super Sub. But I love this guy. This is, I just thought this guy was a bit of a Georgie Best. He had pace, skill, good shot. There was always a buzz when he came on as sub. He could excite, but he could also frustrate. So he would either come on and score or create. But the expectation, you could feel it in the crowd when he started to warm up.
Yeah.
I just admired his skill. He was...
and his moustache as well, Jim.
Yeah, his moustache, yeah. Well, so much so that I remember painting a tash on my Subbuteo player at the time, my town strip. And we had a Jackie Lewis in it. But a few headlines from matches was things like 20-minute Jack, Happy Jack. And these were all, you'd be accompanied with some photographs with his arms aloft after scoring a goal against someone where he one-on-one with the keeper. He used to be able to beat the offside. He used to be able to run, and he was quite nippy. And his best season was 1974-75 when he bagged about 22 goals from 45 games.
He does look impressive.
Some people might have thought he could frustrate. They probably thought he was a bit lazy, possibly. But he was just someone that's always stuck in my mind because he's had these crowd-pleasing runs, taking defenders on, quite deceptive with his pace.
Is there a goal that stands out, Jim, in your mind when you think of Jack Lewis?
Well, there's a number, but I just see him running at the goalie and either lobbing it over his head or just doing a cracking shot from the edge of the area or whatever. I just like to see him in full flow. He got selected for the Wales squad on that season when he scored those 22 goals. And the thing about him, I've always thought, oh, that's brilliant. He's going to get in the Wales squad. It seems great reward. And he was in the squad for the game against Austria in the Euros in '96, the Euro qualifiers. And he was just about to he got stripped, ready to go on, and he was just getting warmed up when Wales scored, and he was told to sit down. And he never actually got on the pitch. And he never actually made it. So he was a bit of a nearly man.
Oh, shame.
Yeah. And I just thought so sorry for him. I thought, if only he'd got on. But the score, I don't think they qualified. But he left Grimsby in around about 1977. I think he went to Blackburn. But he went to Doncaster then after that. And he actually returned to Blundell Park, and it was a season when Town were been promoted in the Division 4. It was a season before the 79-80 season. So Town were having a bit of a promotion party, and Doncaster came and won 4-3, and Jack got a hat-trick. So he actually scored against us, which I don't think he ever scored an hat-trick for Town, but I didn't hold it against him because I always liked the player. I liked him that much that I named my son after him.
Really?
So when it came, I told to my wife, when it came, I was talking about names. I said, "Oh, Jack," and she says, "No, I'm not that keen on that." She says, "What do you think of Lewis?" And I said, "Yeah, that's not bad. How about we combine both names, Jack Lewis?" But then she cottoned on, so it just stayed at Jack. But that was my tribute to Jack Lewis.
That's brilliant. I don't think my wife would have let me call our son Alan.
No.
Either Buckley or Poughton.
Kalala, that wouldn't go down too well, would it?
He hasn't got a Mexican tash, I don't think yet. He's got a beard, but
maybe one day.
Have you not thought of going in the night and maybe improving that beard? I've just googled a picture of him. He does look very impressive. The one in his Wales shirt especially it's brilliant.
It's so
Magnum
sad,
PI is nothing.
There he was that close.
That's quite poignant, isn't it, given the fact that he didn't actually play for Wales, but yet there's a picture of him on Google in a Wales shirt. The interesting thing from looking back through your team as well, Jim, given that story about international caps, I think I'm right in saying that there's only 2 international caps between the whole lot of them, and they were both Joe Waters. So for all that talent in your side, people like Kevin Drinkle and even Mike Brolly and Kevin Moore, there's not many international caps between them.
No, there isn't. No.
Which is interesting.
Yeah, because we did have some internationals over the years, didn't we? Come and play for us. People that, you had. I thought about Trevor Weinmark as well as a striker, because he was here for a short while. I think him and Drinks might have played together at some stage, but that was probably when we were doing that season. We were doing quite well, the 83, 84.
Yeah, that does sound like a bit of a dream pairing. It would be nice to have seen him in action.
Were there any?
Like I say, he was a bit of a maverick player, Jack, and I quite like that idea of somebody that perhaps didn't really always stick to the formula. What I've been told of him, he might try something different.
Were there any players of the sort of last 20 years or so, Jim, that got even close to sort of your favourite 11, or even sort of touching you as much as these players did?
Yeah, Clive.
Okay.
I think Clive, excellent player. I mean, I felt a bit bad leaving him out, but I thought I've got to get Jackie in here and Drinks.
Oh, don't worry. Clive will be fine. I'm sure someone he won't be left out.
Yeah, that, and possibly I could have had Dave Gilbert, maybe. But I was trying to, sort of take virtually all the periods of Town's history, but I reckon that 79-80 is the one. It's my favourite time of year, my favourite year. It just sticks in my memory. I just seem to remember the weather seemed to be great. It used to bite to the match, go for a few pints, go watch them, and you could regularly see them putting 4 or 5 goals past people.
Does modern football come any of the town of today and the experience of Blunder Park? Does it even come close to?
It does sometimes. You get a taste of it, and it might. And obviously the Wembley season, the first one, the double one, that was quite exciting.
Yeah. And how did you feel sort of come relegation as well, sort of non-league relegation? Did that affect your feelings for Town in any way? And
that was quite a desperate time. I mean, but that's where the war artist comes in, doesn't it?
You've got plenty to go on.
plenty of material.
It's been a genuine pleasure, Jack. Is there anything else you would like to ask or speak to Jim about?
No. I mean, I just would have liked to have seen half the players that he's mentioned in action myself. It sounds like a really exciting time to be a Town fan. And I think if you speak to people who are in and around the same age as Jim, they'd have probably had a lot of those players in there themselves. So, I was fortunate enough to see Town in the late 90s when they were playing some good stuff, and obviously that dominated my team. But when it comes to Mavericks, and I think Jim's got a lot of Mavericks in his team, I think his one would take a lot of beating.
I sometimes think of the players from the past as well, but like Sid Wheelhouse, sort of, but not actually seeing him. You just imagine he's got a great name for a footballer, Sid Wheelhouse. You just imagine, you just sort of biting sort of people, fighting and whatever. Imagine real tough cookie, don't you?
You do. Is there one match that really stands out for you as a match that brings back a lot of memories?
Yeah, I think that Everton game.
Yeah,
I think about that one. And I can see it. I mean, I've just actually done painting tribute to that one. A lot of my artwork is associated with Grimsby Town. So that one stuck in my memory, and the match against Sheffield United when we won 4-0. Obviously Wembley's.
Yeah.
And the recent Wembley, that was a fantastic experience as well. I mean, great players. There's so many great players that's passed through the doors at town, and when you get down to your favourites, it's quite a hard job. But I noticed that probably about 6 of mine are from that period, that's 79, 80. So
it's hard to. I'd imagine fans who have sort of just only started supporting town for the last 10 years or so will probably have a lot of the 2016 squad in theirs, because that's when their happiest memories are. And it's delightful to hear of players that I guess for you as well, Jack, where the ones that we don't necessarily talk about, I knew nothing about Jack Lewis, and you only really kind of know about Bobby Cummins and Joe Waters and stuff around the periphery.
Yeah, I mean, because of my role and trying to bring some of those stories and characters to life in the programme for people who are a bit younger, I've kind of vicariously lived through these experiences by encouraging fans to write about them. So all these names that Jim's added to his team, they're all ones that I'm aware of, and I like hearing the stories. It just be nice to see some proper footage of them a bit more regularly. And fortunately people like On This Day, GTSC are doing that, and they're helping to bridge that knowledge gap. It's a lot of people probably who were of a certain age, teenagers, would have heard of Clive Mendonca, but they wouldn't have seen his hat-trick against Bolton in 1994. But they can now because of that footage. And it's the same with, as Jim mentioned, with Mike Brolley's free kick against Barnsley. It's out there now, so we can all relive it, and we can actually have proper conversations about who these great players were and actually see them in action.
And interestingly, going back to Clive, when you're just talking about, there is a match that I remember, particularly with Clive, and that was when he scored a hat-trick against Ipswich. He came back from injury, and I think it was a Easter Monday, so it's quite symbolic in a way. He sort of, as if he'd come back from the dead, really, because he'd been injured, he'd been out for so long, and he came back and he tore him apart.
It's wonderful. Jim, it has been a genuine pleasure. I wouldn't want to wrap it up any early, but I think this system only allows us 2 hours on it, and it's 1:54. But honestly, it would be great to have you back and to speak more about this sort of stuff, because it is really brilliant. I think a lot of people will really appreciate hearing the stories from the 70s and early 80s as well. And I can only thank you for that as well. I don't know what you want to say, Jack, before we go.
Yeah, no, just to echo what you said, Alex. Obviously, I've known Jim for a long time. We've collaborated a lot on the programme, probably nearly 10 years now, Jim, isn't it, altogether? But obviously when it comes to doing the programme and bringing to life some of these characters that are just named to so many people, and Jim's really valuable at being able to do that. So it's been good to hear a little bit more.
Could I just make one last comment?
Of course.
It's an ex-player who sadly passed away, Alan Gordon.
Of course.
He was in the McMenemy team, I think he signed in 72. And he made about 15 appearances that season. But he was the signing, him and Lou Chatley, that made that team tick in the end. I think he only scored. He was like a left winger. I think he scored 5 goals that season, and one of the most important ones, he scored against Peterborough. He got the winner a week before we were playing Exeter. So I think we'd got. I think it was almost there for promotion, or we wouldn't got promotion. I can't remember, but he was instrumental anyway in getting promotion that year. So sadly, poor old, Alan passed away today, so send my commiserations to his family condolences.
Yeah, of course, absolutely. Thank you very much, Jim. And our thoughts go out to the family of Alan Gordon as well. It must be. It's a shame when we're all connected in some sort of way, but we cling on to those who remember them fondest of all, I guess. And it must have been an honour to watch him as well. But yeah, thank you very much, gentlemen. Really appreciate it. And thank you, Jim. That was brilliant. It was something me and Jack are really keen as well to make sure that we obviously know people of our age, but there's only so many times you can put Alan Poughton and Paul Groves in the midfield.
Yeah, please. I enjoyed it. It's good.
Thank you.